Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be doing another top 10 video, and this is going to be top 10 gateway horror movies that I would recommend for people who are looking to get into the horror genre, who've only just maybe started watching horror and don't really know where to start, or a little bit wary, a little bit scared of movies, and what ones should they watch first, or maybe you're just a parent who wants to introduce their children to horror. And I think these are 10 good movies to start with here. Now, I got this video idea when I asked on Instagram a while back, what horror movie top 10s would you guys like to see? And my friend Andy said, from Electric Geek, the channel, I'll leave his link down below. What about 10 gateway horror movies? Like a mini little guide there, if you like. So I just thought, yeah, I'll do that one day. And here I am, I'm doing it. So this is going to be an order of not quality of the movie, but how tame the movie is to how strong it is out of the 10 movies in this list. So 10 will be the tamest, number 1 will be the strongest. But I do consider almost all of these movies to be quite tame and easily digestible for a new horror fan. But I haven't played it too careful either. You're not going to see Hocus Pocus in here or Goosebumps. Nothing too family friendly there. It's going to be a little bit of something for them. I think if you're getting into horror and stuff, you've got to have that little bit of wariness and sinisterism creeping up on you there a little bit, but nothing too extreme here, guys. Mostly tame movies. So let's just get into it now. Number 10. Now, number 10 is actually a family-friendly film, and that is The Witches. However, as a kid, I was quite scared of this movie. Like I said, I'm not putting Goosebumps or Hocus Pocus in here, but this one, I think, has got a little bit of creepiness in there. This basically sees Luke and his grandma go to this hotel in England, and the Grand High Witch is actually staying there with all the witches that she has got at her command, basically, and they're all sort of disguised in wigs and, nice outfits and stuff, but really they've got like pale skin underneath their gloves and stuff. They're taking the wigs off and they've got like bumps all over their head and stuff like that. They become more deteriorated in their real form, if you like. But basically, this is basically seeing Luke and his grandma take them on as the movie goes on, because his grandma knows all about these witches. But what really gets me about this movie is when his grandma is telling him stories about the witches before they even go to the hotel. And there's this one moment in the first 5 minutes of the movie that really used to give me the creeps as a kid. And even watching it as an adult now, I watched it a couple of years ago when I picked the Blu-ray up, and I was like, that's still a little bit strong for kids. But yeah, I think this is still a good movie to get your kids into for the horror genre. But there's a witch kind of eyeing up a victim early on in this movie, and a few weeks later she actually kills this kid and stuff. So yeah, that's the type of tone we're starting with here. And there is an auditorium part where the Grand High Witch takes her mask, her face off and stuff, and she's really got great practical effects under there and stuff, great costume and makeup design. So that might be a little bit scary as well, but overall it's still a charming movie. When Luke and stuff become the mice and stuff like that, it does lower its tone a little bit and become more of a adventure movie, if you like. But I still think it's an absolutely great film, worth watching alone for that. But if you are introducing your kids to this one, definitely watch it with them, I'd say. But I think The Witches is a fantastic movie and a decent one to start with. So that is The Witches. Coming in 9th place, we do have more of a horror comedy here, but this is a movie I've always loved, and that is The Babe, starring Tom Hanks from 1989. Now, it is leaning more into comedy, this movie, but this sees Tom Hanks becoming obsessed with the neighbours across the street who've just moved in, the Klopeks, because he thinks they're up to something. They never come out of their house, they never do their lawn, and their house just still looks a crumbling mess. And he is basically becoming more intrigued about this family and what they are doing in there. He knows there's 3 of them, but he doesn't really know what they look like and stuff. And he, along with his friends, Art and, Rumsfeld, are basically trying to get to the bottom of it, and they believe that these people are actually murderers. Now, I'm not going to get into what happens in the movie or anything, but there are some creepy moments here, I think, especially with the score that this movie has. It's a real jolting score there where you just know something is going on this neighborhood when that music kicks in and stuff like that. And there are some really tension built moments where Tom Hanks is daring himself to knock at the house and stuff. And we're really, as an audience member, wanting to get into the house and see what's going on as much as Tom Hanks does. But yeah, it's just got its moments. There's a real creepy dream sequence in this film where Tom Hanks is dreaming about the Klopeks next door, and some really freaky stuff goes on in them dreams. There's a moment where he's looking in the backyard to the Klopeks and they're digging in the middle of the night, and that score is hitting with the thunder and lightning and stuff. So it does have its moments. However, as the film goes on, it just becomes a little bit more fun. But I do think this is a really good one to start with, especially for younger audiences. So that is The Bibs. Getting into something slightly darker now, and we do have The Craft. Now, this is more of a teenage high school movie that contains these witches, basically starring Veruza Balk and Neve Campbell, Robin Tunney, and I forgot the other actress's name. I'm really sorry. Really, really sorry about that. But it's about these four witches who are basically using their magic, because they know they've got powers and stuff, to manipulate boys and, basically pay people back if they've ever wronged them, because they're kind of outcasts. And this new girl, played by Robin Tunney, joins them. And as the movie goes on, it becomes a little bit more sinister. Veruza Balk's character starts to become obsessed with being powerful and one of the greatest witches out there and stuff. And it does lead to people dying and really bad things happening there. And the movie starts to, what started off as fun with these spells that these witches can endure and stuff, starts to go down very dark and sinister paths. And yeah, it's another one that kind of has a lot of creepy moments in there, especially the final third act where, all these insects and snakes and stuff are invading Robin Tunney's house and stuff like that. But I think this is an easily digestible horror movie. Like I said, it's more like teenage high school drama, but I do think this is a wonderful film that is one of my staplehood classics from the 90s. I used to watch this on repeat all the time on VHS. It's absolutely, just one of them 90s type decade movies that just works. I mean, there was a lot of these movies that came out, wasn't it, in the high school, like Halloween H2O, The Faculty, which I very rarely put on this list, by the way. We did have a lot of these through the 90s, but this is one of the best and just a really fun time. So that is The Craft. Next up, I had to put a Universal monster movie in there, and that is The Wolfman. I was humming and hawing between this and Frankenstein. And I do think that this one is the slightly better movie. And Frankenstein does have a moment in there where it involves a child being harmed, although that does happen in The Witches as well. So I'm sort of contradicting myself slightly there. But I do think The Wolfman is the overall better Universal monster movie. I think this and The Invisible Man are the best. But Frankenstein is the more classic one that I felt I should have included. But I've just gone with The Wolfman. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with all these Universal monster movies. And this sees Lon Chaney Jr.'s character basically come home to his father, who's quite rich. I think he's got like this big mansion and stuff. And he takes a liking to the girl who works in the jewelry, the antique store, should I say. And he's trying to woo her and stuff. And they go and get their palms read one night as a little date and stuff. And on the way, Lon Chaney Jr. is attacked by this wolf, this werewolf. And he starts to become this wolf himself overnight. Now, there are some really scary werewolf movies out there. American Werewolf in London is definitely one of them. You got great ones like Silver Bullet and stuff. But I do think this is definitely the tamest werewolf movie that I've seen. I mean, the costume design, although it still looks good because I can learn to get with the times and just have it more as a charming effect, does feel a little bit dated at the same time for newer audiences. And I think they may not think this is too scary or anything like that, seeing Lon Chaney Jr. become this Wolfman. But it does have its moments, it's got that really creepy Universal monster movie horror vibe to it, where, You just got the forest surrounded by the moonlight and stuff like that. All the set design is awesome here with the fog pumped in and everything. I think if you're getting into horror, you've got to watch one of these movies, and I got to go with The Wolfman. I think it is the best werewolf movie of all time, or joint best with American Werewolf in London. I don't think you can go quite wrong with this. And at only 70 minutes, it'll absolutely fly by. So that is The Wolfman from 1941. Next up, we do have Happy Death Day. Now, this takes the Groundhog Day formula and turns it into a slasher movie, which makes for a very fun concept, I think. You've got this female protagonist called Tree, who is basically killed by this serial killer going around the high school. The high school movie there, guys. And she is killed by this killer and on her birthday. But then she wakes up and has to live her birthday again. And she knows she's going to get killed at the end of the day. So it's basically her living every day, being killed and waking up at the same time on the same day, but trying to solve her murder and getting more clues as the movie goes on. And I think it's a really fun way to do a slasher horror movie there. And there are some fun kills in there and stuff. There's nothing too heavy in here. It's a bit more of a horror comedy, I suppose. There's been a couple of horror comedies in here, hasn't there? But I really like the character arc we get with Tree as well. She's not really a very likable person at the start of the movie, but by the end, you're kind of warming to it a lot more. So you got all that going on, really. And it's just a really fun slasher film, I think. And one of the more clever ones in the modern era. So yeah, if you want a decent little slasher movie with a twist, can't go wrong with Happy Death Day. Next up, we do have Critters. Now, I was humming and ahhing between this and Gremlins, but like I said at the start of the video, guys, I just need them movies with a little bit more oomph in there. And I do think Critters has a more horror focus than Gremlins, although both of them are really great movies. I just went with Critters. Now, this sees a bunch of these krites, which are aliens from another planet that look like Gremlins. They're more like furballs, and they sort of come to Earth and take over this farmhouse where this family are living and stuff, and slowly worm their way into the farmhouse. But they've got these bounty hunters coming after them from another planet there, and basically they are trying to track them down before they start killing everyone in this town called Grover's Bend and everyone in the farmhouse. But I really like the design of these critters. They're kind of fun to watch, even though they can be violent little bastards. There are some violent moments in this movie, I must admit. So just a heads up there. And it kind of has a more of an adult rating compared to Gremlins. Gremlins goes for the way more fun aspect. This one goes more in the violent horror orientated aspect, I suppose. But yeah, this one has got like a little bit of a B-movie charm to it. Now, if you're going to get into horror movies, there are a lot of low-budget horror movies out there, even still being made today. So this one will give you a little bit of taste of what you can expect when you go into horror movies. This one has got that low-budget B-movie-esque feel to it, I think. But yeah, Critters, really, really fun film. The second one is probably a better movie, but you got to start with the first, haven't you? So I do recommend this one. But Gremlins as well, if you want to go for that, it was a 50-50 shot, really. So that is Critters. Next up, we have probably the best vampire movie ever made, and that is The Lost Boys. But what I will say about this is a really fun movie as well. But this sees two brothers and their mother moving to Santa Carla, which is the murder capital of the world. And on their way, they meet David and his friends, who are in fact vampires, and they're trying to get one of the brothers, what's his name? Michael, into their little gang sort of there and turn him into a vampire. But his brother Sam is onto it, and Sam has got to team up with Corey Feldman's character and his friend and take these vampires down, basically. But yeah, I really love the whole 80s style that we have here. Tim Capello on the trumpet there. I still believe. You can't beat that moment, man. What a moment that is. This town, the location that it takes place in, just gives off this really fun vibe. There's like roller coasters and merry-go-rounds everywhere. Everyone's just having a great time. Not a phone in sight as well, which is a welcome addition. But yeah, it really has got that 80s aesthetic all over it. Great soundtrack here. And what I will say is there's not too many scary moments in this movie. It definitely feels more of an adventure type film for the second half of the movie, when Sam and the Frog Brothers kind of go after these vampires and stuff. But there are moments. I mean, there's a moment where Michael actually realizes that these guys are vampires, and they take a few people out at this kind of bonfire party, which can be a little bit heavy going. And later on in the film, when we see them all in their sort of vampire sort of form, that one can be a little bit heavy as well. But overall, I think this is another easily digestible horror movie for newcomers. But it is lower on the list because the ones behind it are much tamer, but not by much. I think The Lost Boys is fantastic. And, if you really did want to go into the horror genre and just skip all the tameness and really go into one movie that will really get you into the genre, you can't really look past The Lost Boys. So yeah, fantastic film, brilliant vampire movie, gotta be in there. Coming in third place, we do have Cujo, which I only actually watched for the first time not too long ago, which is sacrilege, I suppose. I've just never really fancied this film about, a sort of demon dog running around, a rabid dog. But when I watched it, I was surprised how much I really liked it. And this sees Dee Wallace and her family basically just living in this town. But there is like this farmhouse up the top of this hill where this dog, Cujo, has gone rabid, unbeknownst to them. And halfway through the film, Dee Wallace and his son sort of get into a isolation type predicament where this dog will not let them leave their car outside this kind of farmhouse at the top of the hill and stuff. Now, I really like the way Cujo starts off a little bit sinister, and by the end he does actually look like a dog from hell, like this really demon devil dog. It can be a little bit intense at times, this movie, because the dog is just not giving up. It's not showing any remorse, emotion. It's not going to let these people go. It just wants Dee Wallace and his son and wants to devour them. And that's it. That's it. The only goal it's got. It's kind of like a Terminator going after Sarah Connor. This dog wants them and nothing more. He's just guarding this car with its life and waiting for them to leave so we can pounce on them. So it does become a little bit intense there. But overall, I still think this is a pretty watchable movie for newcomers of the horror genre. It just might get a little bit too much towards the third act there. But like I said, all of these movies have got that little bit of oomph there. So yeah, I think Cujo is a decent Stephen King one as well to get into there. So that is Cujo. Next up, we have Child's Play, a horror film about a killer doll. Now, I absolutely love Chucky. He's one of my favourite horror icons, probably top 3 alongside Freddy and maybe Art the Clown. Yes, Art the Clown is new in my top 3. I just love the guy. Anyway, going off on a tangent there. But this one is where it all started. And we've got this Charles Lee Ray serial killer guy who uses his voodoo to put his dying body into a doll so he can carry on living, this good guy doll. And this street peddler picks this doll up, and this woman, played by Catherine Hicks, his son, is desperate for one of these dolls. And she can't get hold of one anywhere, but she sees him selling it on the street and buys it for Andy. And when Andy is sort of with this doll, sinister things start to happen, and he starts to swear a little bit more. But then people start to get hurt around the doll and stuff, and Andy is sort of obviously getting a blame because adults aren't believing a word he says when he keeps blaming it on this Chucky doll and stuff. And as a viewer, first time watching this, you're kind of scratching your head going, where's this leading to? Is this kid really causing all this carnage, or is this doll really alive? And the tension really does build up. Now, I don't want to get into too many spoilers here, guys, but you obviously are going to know what is going to happen with this doll, I'm sure. I'm sure you've all heard of Chucky. And yeah, it does intensify later on in the movie when we find out what the hell is going on. Yeah, but yeah, a really wonderful film, a really great killer doll movie. And I think this is a great one to start with. And if you like this, you can't go wrong with Child's Play 2, 3, Bride. It's a wonderful franchise to get into. Probably the most consistent horror franchise out there, I think, with one of the greatest horror icons now. That is Child's Play. Number one, though, guys, is going to be Friday the 13th. Now, I will admit, I was thrown in the deep end as a horror fan. The first 3 horror movies I ever watched were A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and Friday the 13th. And the first one I fully watched overall, from start to finish, was A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. But Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Friday the 13th were 2 movies that I used to go to my friend's house and watch, and I could never ever get through them because I was too scared. But I do think in this decade now, in the modern era that we're in, Friday the 13th does seem a lot more tamer than it probably did when I watched it on VHS. Also, if you watch these 9 movies before Friday the 13th, I think it's definitely going to gear you up to be able to digest this movie. This is basically a movie about a killer going around Camp Crystal Lake, taking the camp counselors out from a first-person point of view. And it did really creep me up as a kid, you know, wondering what was going on with this killer, who this killer was, why this killer was doing it. And it's got its moments. However, I do watch it now and kind of feel like it's a little bit laughable at times with some of the kills and stuff, but it's still a fairly decent movie. And if you want to watch a proper slasher film, you can't really go wrong with Friday the 13th if you want to get into the horror genre. And like Chucky, this may spur you on to watch one of the best horror franchises out there. I think there's another, was it 10, 11 movies altogether? Yeah, 10, and then the remake, Freddy vs. Jason, if you want to count that. So, yeah, I mean, if you watch this and enjoy it, you can really have a good time with this franchise. Probably the easiest set of movies to watch, but do beware. This movie does have its moments where some jump scares, with people getting thrown through windows and stuff. And I will admit, it has one of the greatest jump scares of all time in this movie. You may jump out your skin. But, like I said, I can't play this too easy, this video. You've got to have something there. If you want to get into horror, you're going to be scared now and again. And there are way scarier movies than Friday the 13th, put it that way. But you can have a really great time with this. And maybe it will give you the creeps now and again, but nothing too out there, I think. So yeah, number one is Friday the 13th. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. What would be some of your gateway horror movies? Please do leave them in the link down below. If you want more horror top 10s, I'll leave that in the link down below as well. So thanks so much guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you like horror, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It will really help me out. Thanks so much. You take care. And I'll see you all in the next video.